So this morning I want to talk about another common habit of mine that can impede our progress on the path. And we have Joe A and Joe B, and about, I don't know, a month or two ago, Joe A raised this issue, and it's what I'm going to call the trap of reason giving. And reason giving, the act of verbalizing and defining cause and effect. And we do this all the time. It's uniquely human, it's necessary, it serves us well when we're seeking understanding, structure, or solutions. So an example would be, oh, I'm sorry I'm late for the appointment. I had a flat tire. I'm late, and I give the reason, which is the flat tire. The problem is, like many tools of the mind, habits of the mind, its overuse and misapplication, the overuse and misapplication of reason giving can lead us astray. And this happens when our efforts to explain ourselves or make sense of our struggles or justify our actions. Oh, I wouldn't have yelled at you if you hadn't left the tube off the toothpaste or whatever. With reason giving in that way, we find ourselves narrowing our attention, fueling endless rumination and entangling ourselves in these mental loops, which does nothing but reinforce and worsen the very suffering that we're seeking to overcome. And the antidote to this predicament lies not in more reasoning, trying to figure things out and find justifications for things. Rather, I would suggest to you that it lies in cultivating a sense of humility about our reasons and embracing a practice of radical acceptance of things as they are, not as we wish them to be. Very often with reason giving, what we're doing is trying to rewrite reality, make things fit our agenda. And this openness of doing less reason giving allows us to directly engage with life as it is, without all this excessive mental commentary, this constant commentary that we often engage in. And reason giving at its core, as I said at the outset, is an expression of cause and effect. It's an attempt to always define the why behind our experience. And yes, this can be useful when we're problem solving, or when we're, trying to explain a situation that, it really has, like the flat tire, legitimacy. It becomes counterproductive when we apply it to every aspect of the complexities of our inner life. For instance, when we're faced with emotional pain, it's natural to seek reasons for why we feel this way. I'm anxious because I failed to meet that deadline. I'm anxious because, I don't like to be around people I don't know. Or I'm unhappy because I'm not where I thought I would be in my life. Now, granted, these explanations are comforting in the moment because they tend to give some order to what otherwise might feel chaotic or unexplicable. But the reasoning narrows our attention and locks us into these fixed narratives about our suffering. What we otherwise often call here stories. I mean, this is where our stories come from. When we become cognitively fused, cognitively enmeshed with the stories we create, these narratives start to dominate our awareness. And we then shift from the present moment and get all entangled in the story we've constructed about what just happened. This then in turn leads to rumination. Rumination, a cycle of overthinking, overanalyzing, on and on, that deepens our distress. So, for example, when we convince ourselves that our unhappiness stems from a certain event or a certain condition, we may find ourselves constantly obsessively revisiting it. Oh, it's this way. My life is this way. My life is this way because such and such happened. And we look then for additional reasons or evidence to support our conclusion, what we call in psychology confirmation bias. We constantly are then finding things that confirm those original reasons, and the entanglement just gets more and more messy. Because the more reasons we generate, the more our suffering intensifies, because we're so entangled and so caught up in all this reason giving. So instead of relieving the weight of our struggles, reason giving often reinforces it. It tightens the mental loops that keep us stuck. But the practice of radical acceptance is a way out of this cognitive trap. It's a way out of this quagmire. Because at its heart, what I'm calling radical acceptance is a willingness to meet life as it is, without resistance or without the compulsion to always explain it. You know, very often reason giving is just a way to soothe the ego. It's a way to offload all the stuff that we tell ourselves to try to keep ourselves from getting upset or feeling bad or whatever. Now, this acceptance I'm talking about, again, it's not resignation, it's not passivity. It's an open, compassionate acknowledgement of our experience. Free from judgment, free from the need to assign reasons. And it takes the weight of reasoning, this ruminative reasoning, off of our brains and guides us to a greater openness, a sense of openness that allows us to experientially engage with the present moment. When we're all bogged down in reasoning, we're not present, we're somewhere else. So when we practice radical acceptance, we stop asking, why is this happening to me? How do I fix this? Instead, we ask, what is this moment asking of me? What is this moment asking of me? And this is a fundamental shift which allows us to see our struggles not as problems to be solved, but as experiences to be felt and understood directly. Remember, the Buddha said we want to be open to all experience. We want to be open to whatever's arising. We don't want to be bogged down in trying to explain it, excuse it, push it off, unload it, whatever. So rather than fixating on why we might feel anxious, we turn our attention to how anxiety is showing up in the body, tightness in the chest, rapid heartbeat, fluttering breath. By engaging, and we're back to the body here, by engaging with the raw sensations of our experience, we break free from these mental loops, these constant loops of reasoning and justification and explaining, and reconnect with the immediacy of the present moment. Now, this approach requires on our part a sense of humility about our reason giving. It asks us to recognize the limits of our capacity to understand things intellectually and to let go of the illusion that we can think our way out of every difficulty. That's a rabbit hole if we go down there, that we can think our way. I mean, I used to say to people I work with all the time, you're not going to think yourself out of this problem. You know, we have to deal with what's going on with it right in the moment. Because as the Buddha taught, our suffering arises not from the conditions of our lives, but from either clinging to them or pushing them away. And our attachment to the stories we tell ourselves are about how things should be, how we want them to be. That's the source of suffering. But by releasing the grip of these stories, we create spaciousness. We create space for new awarenesses and new insights to emerge. The antidote to reason giving is to see the world with fresh eyes, with beginner's mind, to approach each of these situations with curiosity and openness, as if we were encountering it for the first time. And this perspective allows us to move beyond the confines of our habitual thinking, our habits of the mind, and experience life in its fullness. When we're locked into these habits of the mind and these reasons and these stories, our focus narrows. When we see with fresh eyes, we're no longer bound by the reasons we have created for our suffering. Giving reasons is not a path out of our suffering. Instead, we want to be free to explore new possibilities, new ways of being, new relationships to our experience. You know, this is what's referred to again and again as beginner's mind, a state of openness and receptivity that allows us to approach life without preconceptions, without expectations. We want to sort of just clear all that noise out of there. Beginner's mind invites us to let go of our need to explain everything, to justify everything, to control everything, and simply show up and be present with what is. Now, I'm not talking here about abandoning reason altogether, but I'm talking about placing it in its proper context. Reasoning has its place, of course it does, but it is not the ultimate answer to our struggles. Because true freedom comes not from understanding our suffering. We can think about it till the cows come home, but by transforming our relationship with it. We say this again and again. It's a somewhat subtle but very powerful practice. And the problem is reason giving puts arbitrary limits on our efforts. It closes us in. So let me suggest that reason giving is a double-edged sword, because while it can provide clarity and structure, and we need that, yes, it also narrows our attention if we don't use it skillfully. It fuels rumination if we don't use it skillfully, and it traps us in mental loops that perpetuate our suffering. To break free from this cycle, we have to cultivate a sense of humility, as I said, and embrace this practice of radical acceptance. By letting go of the need to explain and justify everything, we open ourselves to the richness of the present moment. Seeing the world with fresh eyes, engaging with life directly, being in the moment. In doing so, we discover that the peace we seek is not found in these answers we constantly generate, but the freedom that comes from simply being with whatever's coming up, whatever's arising. As the Buddha so wisely taught, the path to liberation lies not in clinging to our stories or generating new stories, but in letting them go. So that is the trap of reason giving.